Good evening, Dinesh.
Good evening, Erin.
Good evening, Lilesh.
Good to see you. Good evening, Vijayji.
Sir, it's 5:03. Can we start?
Yes.
Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Good evening, one and all. We will commence the program. I invite you all for a very important and current topic, demystifying cryptocurrencies. I now invite Mr. K. Suresh, President, Hindustan Chamber, to welcome the audience.
Good evening, dear Sri H.R. Mohan, Chairman, Information Technology Committee, Hindustan Chamber of Commerce. Dear Sri Hiran B. Shah, Co-Chairman, Information Technology Committee, Hindustan Chamber of Commerce. Dear Mr. Arun Vijay, Co-Founder and COO, Geotask Technologies Private Limited. My colleague, Mr. V. Nahappan, President-elect, Hindustan Chamber of Commerce. Past presidents, members of Hindustan Chamber of Commerce, friends, I extend my warm welcome to you all. Today's webinar the topic of today's webinar is demystifying cryptocurrencies. I think all of you know very well that different classes of assets are there for investment. For example, you are having property. You can invest in property, shares, mutual funds, even commodities like gold, silver. So another form of asset, that is digitalized form of asset, is cryptocurrency. But the most problem with this particular asset class is that even though I am calling it as an asset class, still across the globe, the controversy is going on in classification of this asset. Whether it is asset or commodity, I mean, a lot of confusion still prevailing. Similarly, many countries different countries are having different approaches towards dealing in these cryptocurrencies. Because the idea, if you actually go through the concept of cryptocurrency, it is a very good concept. Concept-wise, it's a fantastic concept. The problem is that regular currency functions in an inflationary environment, whereas cryptocurrency is not functioning in inflationary environment. It is functioning in deflationary environment. So there is a possibility of artificial increase of the value of the currency, which is unavoidable. That is the one thing. Next, actually, as a layman, everybody thinks, all investors, who wants to invest in cryptocurrencies, they are thinking that it is a technology based. I am not a programmer. I'm not a technology savvy to deal with. So people are having some aversion towards investing in cryptocurrencies because of technology involved in that. Not only that, other reasons also there. I mean, they are not sure of safety of their investment in their minds, like shares. Of course, if I invest, I'm having physically the stocks, rather in a digital form, I'm holding the shares of a company. Similarly, property, physically, I'm seeing the property. So I'm having that comfort. Whereas in the case of crypto, it is kept in the form of ledgers in a digital form. And moreover, it is not any centralized activities, no centralized activities, a decentralized environment. So the fear further increases to an investor. So naturally, even though a decade ago this was coined in, still a lot of myths are going around. Similarly, discomforts are there for every investor. And similarly, the countries are not recognizing, except one country, I think El Salvador, I think only one country recognized this as a legitimate currency. Others are given different facilities to this currency. So in India also, of course, the parliament supposed to bring the legislation in the last winter session, but they have deferred the same for further discussions. But RBI is very stubborn in burning this particular currency. Of course, if you ask me frankly, the growth of this currency is phenomenal now. As of today, if you see a lot of investors put their money in this, and so banning also is not going to help the investors as well as the country. So a lot of, you have to take a proper decision in dealing with controlling this. So when I say so many things, naturally every one of you will have so many doubts about cryptocurrencies. Even I have not seen physically. Even once I tried to enter into somebody's to buy cryptocurrency, immediately that gentleman asked me to transfer the funds. I didn't know ABCD of what he's going to do. So immediately I stopped at the stage. I came out. Regularly I'm receiving phone calls. What happened, Mr. Suresh? Why you have not done it? So a lot of fears we are having. So today, Hindustan Chamber of Commerce Information Technology Committee has arranged a beautiful webinar, that too with the help of Mr. Arun Vijay, Geotas Technology, who is heading a platform, exchange platform. Definitely a boon for all of us to listen to him and enjoy the beauty of rather removing all those myths and have a comfort look at cryptocurrency. With this introduction, I am leaving the floor to Mr. H.R. Mohan.
Good evening, friends. On behalf of the Information Technology Committee of Hindustan Chamber of Commerce, I would like to welcome our resource person, Mr. Arun Vijay, CEO and founder of Geotas Technologies Limited, and our hearty welcome to our President, Mr. Suresh, CA Suresh, and my colleague in the committee, Mr. Hiran Shah, and Mr. Valliyappan Nagappan, who is the President-elect of Hindustan Chamber of Commerce, and all the delegates for joining this webinar on demystifying cryptocurrencies. The cryptocurrencies have become a buzzword, as our President, Mr. Suresh, was mentioning, and everyone is thinking of cryptocurrencies, and particularly Bitcoin, because the name Bitcoin has become so popular. And every day, like gold prices, people started looking at what is the price of Bitcoin today. So in fact, almost all the frontline magazines, they start publishing about the rate of the various cryptocurrencies. Though the concept of cryptocurrency has not been new, so it has been in existence from mid-80s, but unfortunately, it didn't become that popular because the technology was not mature enough. But during the late 90s, late 20s, something like 2009, when Satoshi coined the word Bitcoin and published the paper about the cryptocurrency, all of a sudden it started attracting the global attention, and cryptocurrency, came into existence. And that time people didn't take it very seriously, the hobby, more like a hobby, cryptocurrency mining. So by solving certain problems, people are used to get rewarded by cryptocurrencies and things like that. That's why, the cryptocurrency came into existence. And there is a saying, or I think it must be true as per report, during 2010, one person exchanged 10,000 cryptocurrencies for 2 pizzas. So in current price, these 2 pizzas would be costing $400 million. So you can imagine, during the last 10 to 11 years, how much the cryptocurrency, the Bitcoin, has changed the value in its value. That is mainly because we are working on a very limited number of cryptocurrencies, particularly the Bitcoin. They seem to have sort of capped the amount of Bitcoins what can be generated through the system is about 21 million. So almost we are 75 to 80% of the capacity we have reached. So along with Bitcoin, when things are becoming popular, there are a lot of other cryptocurrencies started coming. And there are close to about 1,800 to 2,000 cryptocurrencies are existing at different values. Valuations are different, and ease of creating those currencies are different and things like that. And as of today, Bitcoin is the king in the cryptocurrency arena. And as Mr. Suresh was mentioning, different countries are having regulatory control over this decentralized financial transaction system, particularly, the fear of losing control over the economy. That seems to be the major reason the countries or different economies are against cryptocurrency. However, along with El Salvador and Cuba has recently announced that this will be a legal tender, and many more countries are looking whether they can treat it as a legal tender, or they can go for another digital currency which still can be controlled. And there are currencies like these cryptocurrencies are called fiat currencies, where they are not backed with any sort of solid backing, whereas our stable currencies are backed with gold reserves and things like that. So that is the fear that what happens, it is like a bubble. Many economists, and including a lot of Wall Street experts, they classify, though it is an asset, any day it can be like a bubble, it can burst. So there's a lot of fear and mystery around this Bitcoin. And along with Bitcoin, how many, there are, as I was mentioning, about close to about 1,800 to 2,000 other cryptocurrencies in which we have to invest. Of late, even the companies, the listed companies, they started investing in Bitcoin as a asset classification, particularly because it is speculative in nature and they can make some money and things like that. But still, with the amount of digital literacy and the fear of individuals in terms of whether they will lose the money is still prevalent. And even though the system, which is supported by the decentralized databases and cryptography to a large extent, and the technology blockchain, it is useful in tracing the transaction, still, we are not very clear. In fact, the mining itself is a major problem, and it is posing a lot of environmental issues. In fact, the crypto mining is a very power intensive, and globally people have been against using so much of power for mining the cryptocurrencies, and particularly China, which used to be the largest cryptocurrency miner, have totally banned the cryptocurrency mining, and things have been taking different shape. And we are, globally people are watching what is going to happen to this cryptocurrency market. So definitely this program, what we are going to have by Mr. Vijay, is going to really demystify, and also it will give us some courage to start investing. In fact, almost a year back, when we had organized a similar program along with Mr. Vijay, that time the the Bitcoin was less than $15,000. In fact, after the program, I was almost inclined to ask whether I can invest some money. Possibly, had I invested, I would have exited at it as $67,000 a few months back. And even with one Bitcoin, I would have made few lakhs rupees. But anyhow, it is the question of, as Suresh was mentioning, whether we are determined to take that risk. Is a basic thing. And even though we claim that we are computer savvy, still, as he was mentioning, online fund transfer is still a scary issue. Till the time we get the acknowledgement whether the money has reached the other party, we are not very sure. So that way, a lot of cloud is there in our mind. And I'm sure that Mr. Vijay is going to demystify all. And I wish the program all the very best, and hope that you will go with certain takeaways from this program. Now I request Mr. Hiran to formally introduce the speaker and set the ball rolling.
Thank you, Mr. Mohan. President, Mr. Suresh, and members of the Hindustan Chamber of Commerce. It's my immense pleasure to introduce our speaker of the day, Mr. Arjun Vijay. And before I start, it's very heartening to note that we have more than 90 plus participants and it's growing. Right? So it shows, as Mr. Mohan and Mr. Suresh said, the interest in this exchange and its platform and the mystery around it is very evident. Right? So without much further ado, let me go ahead and introduce Mr. Arjun Vijay. Mr. Arjun Vijay is the co-founder and the chief operating officer of Giotas cryptocurrency exchange platform. It's one of India's leading and pioneer platforms set up in 2018. He manages the day-to-day operations, which specializes in providing customer service in various vernacular languages. And he probably is one of the largest exchanges because he claims to have more than 400,000 customers on their exchange of the platform. His interest and passion for cryptocurrency has helped him to ideate this exchange and build up this application and this platform, right? Mr. Arjun is an alumni of IIM Calcutta and has initiated multiple scalable consumer programs successfully throughout his career. He believes in the value of innovation and considers as a journey towards creating a go-to platform for investment in virtual assets. So his experience across diverse domains, which is retail, telecom, renewable energy, and blockchain, has helped him on his path and kept him grounded with consumer realities. Arjun is an avid reader across genres and likes to keep himself updated on technology and people. He's also very fascinated about the future and how the products of today have the potential to shape the future for tomorrow and all of us. A brief note about his company. Of course, I'm no better person than him to do that, but the Kyoto's cryptocurrency exchange is serving about 400,000 customers in India. It is actually a pioneer set up in 2018. It has changed the way the Indian customers are trading in the digital assets by building a sophisticated but an easy-to-use platform with a top-tier vernacular-based customer support service, right? Which is very important in India because we have to reach the masses. We need to be in the local vernacular languages. And his exchange is currently supporting 80 plus cryptocurrencies, and they have a volume of over 400 crores a month. It's really amazing. Over to Mr. Arjun Vijay for his insights and demystifying on the currency for all of us. Thank you all, one and all, and thank you for attending. Over to you, Arjun.
Yeah. So thank you for the warm welcome, Hiran, and thanks, Suresh. Thanks, Mohan. I think that was a very fantastic introduction. You talked about all the positives and also the concerns with respect to cryptocurrency. I think that's a very good foundation for me to start talking. I'll also like to thank for the opportunity. I'm a firm believer in Bitcoin. I know a lot of people are curious about Bitcoin. There is also a lot of misconceptions. So I embrace every opportunity with open hands. So even if I also see a lot of senior people in this forum, and I think educating about Bitcoin to these people, I think it's of immense value because you are going to take it to your organizations and you are in a position where you can eliminate a lot of people. When you talk, people are going to listen. So I'm very happy I got this opportunity to explain about Bitcoin here. So to start off with, right, I'll be very clear. I will not be able to explain the entire thing about cryptocurrencies because it is not something that I can do it in 40 minutes. So I'll give you a brief glimpse. Why Bitcoin, why cryptocurrencies, what makes it so powerful, right? We will start with a brief look at the history, right? The world has changed at a rapid pace, right? We can always say the world has always been changing, but it has not always changed at this pace. So what is happening is the pace at which the world is changing is accelerating. You take someone from 1,000 years ago, you put him, take him into a time machine and put him 100 years before or after. Say, take someone from 1000 AD and put him in 1200 AD. You'll not find much difference in the world, right? World would not have changed much, right? But if you take today's person and send him into 20 years back, right? How much different the world would have been, right? Or take someone from 2005 and put him in now. There was no smartphone then, right? Internet was at a very rudimentary stage. The way we operate, look at how COVID has affected our lives now and what would have happened if COVID had come in 2005, 2006 when we didn't have internet penetration. So we did not have webinars like this. I don't know how colleges education would have run, how companies would have survived. A lot of things happening through webinars now, but in 2005, this was not possible. So world is changing at a rapid pace and it's very relevant to everyone, right? Look at how the industries got disrupted and also how disruptors got disrupted. So some of the pioneers of this last 20 years, like Nokia, right? They were the world's largest mobile phone providers and they went into bankruptcy. Or look at Yahoo, which was one of the foremost search engines when we started. So we could call them pioneers of search engine industry, but they stopped or they themselves were disrupted at some point. So it's very important, both the internet industry and non-internet traditional industry, to look at how world is changing and adapt to the changing times, right? So, so that is the reason why a lot of tech companies today are paranoid. Look at how Facebook, it's changing the name to Meta. Despite them the world's largest brand, everyone recognizes the name, but they are changing that. They are much beyond that, because they should not be defined by just this one social media alone, right? They are talking about how the world will look like 10 years from now, 20 years from now, right? Maybe in 10, 20 years, people will not be scrolling a two-dimensional social feed in the laptop, right? You'd want to wear your virtual reality glasses and live in a virtual environment. The social media will be a virtual world, right? You can drop into a cowboy area, or you can dive into a ocean, right? You can decide which kind of virtual environment you want to live in. So that is the reason why Facebook is changing the name to Meta, right? So all this is in the changing world. In future, crypto might play a vital role. And why? Right? This is something that we are going to look in today's session. Right? To understand that, we have to see evolution of two things. First, evolution of money. Right? Money has changed over the years. Right? We had a barter system 2,000, 3,000 years back. Then we had the coinage. Right? We had gold and silver coin. Then we had fiat currencies. And now we have digital. The fiat currencies has come into digital world, like Sai was talking about net banking solutions, RTGS, and the latest avatar is UPI. Money has consistently changed, right? And I normally tell to my friends, right? The story of money is the story of civilization. Money was one of the key prime movers which made civilization possible, right? Without money, what would have happened? I need to create my own food. I need to stitch my own clothes. I have to do everything for myself, right? I cannot specialize in something. What money did was, I could do what I'm good at, earn money, and use that money to spend on my other requirements. So that is the reason why we have engineers today. That is the reason why we have scientists today who are able to do one particular thing really well and not be really concerned about rest of the things. Right? So, and a lot of people, when we talk about Bitcoin, they're saying this is virtual. We cannot see it. It's not controlled by a central body. Why do you think money should change? The fact is, money has always changed. The way people looked at money in 1980s, the way we are looking at it now, right? It has always changed. Now, creation of money, like 20, 30 years back, to create money, government has to print as many number of 500 rupee or 1,000 rupee notes, right? Today, printing is money is just adding few zeros in the database, right? When government extends 1 lakh rupee loan or 1 lakh crore loan, right? It is just digits entered in the database, right? 80 to 90% of the money is not in the printed way. It's all only digital. So money is already virtual, right? 90% of the money that is in circulation, we don't see it. It is existing only in the ledgers of the bank, right? And cryptocurrency could be a natural evolution of that. We will see why, right? At the same time, as I said, this is like culmination of evolution of two things. One is money, the other is internet, right? So generally people look in hindsight and say, okay, this is Mughal era, this is British era, right? So if people look back at internet, what they say is there was this web 1.0 from 1990s to the 2000s, right? Where it almost operated like a newspaper or like a TV industry. There were few creators, publishers who owned the websites. They created the content while rest of the people just consumed the content passively, right? In the 2000s, the social media became a huge thing. Community building was the next big thing. So the guys who capitalized this, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, they created a world where you not only consume information, but also create information. So this is the era of user created content, right? I think a lot of you would have seen statistics. Every 1 minute, what is the amount of data that is being generated? How many photos are being uploaded in Facebook? How many posts are being created, right? This is all possible because users are creating. If it was just a one-way communication, we will not have had this much data, right? But Web 2.0 also came with its own problems. You see large organizations like Facebook, Google, they control all your data. They are the gatekeepers. They own your data, and using the data, they serve you ads. They sell your data to other companies so that they can serve you ads, right? And they completely control our online experience. They decide what post you want to see, what kind of ads you have to see. This is not very good, right? The fate of internet in a handful of people, right? It should not be like that. Internet, we think it's a public service, right? A lot of people connect to internet. No one particular person controls internet, but that's not how it's operating in today's world. That is the reason why there is a lot of concern about privacy also. If I am sharing my picture to say Mohan or Suresh, Why should Zuckerberg have access to that picture? Right? Why should he even see it? Why can't we build systems that are decentralized in nature? Right? So the answer to these two questions came in the form of Bitcoin. So before 2009, there was no concept of Bitcoin. So Mohan said there were primitive crypto tokens, but these were more like an experimental nature, but they never came to the public. So there was something called Hashcash. Multiple experimental projects came, but none of them became reality because they all had their shortcomings. The tech was not ready for them. Right? So 2009 was the first time we had a cryptocurrency that could be embraced by masses. And this was also the first time something called blockchain came into picture. Bitcoin was the first application of blockchain. People then later realized, okay, this is doing this so superbly. Why don't we take this core thing and do multiple things? That is why a lot of people you see are promoting blockchain. It's an amazingly good data structure. It's immutable, all those things. But it all started with Bitcoin, right? So when people study the story of money, one of the key things people realize is money is basically memory, right? I did this work today. I did that tomorrow, right? For this, someday in the future, I'm going to ask you something and you're going to give it. That is the basic function of money, right? If it is a group of 10, 20 people, right? And it's a closed system, you don't even need money. Just through memory, everything can be done, right? You do your work and forget it. Every need of yours will be served based on how much you have contributed. We say this karma, right? So, so money is basically memory, and people have understood that blockchain is the most fantastic store of memory. That makes Bitcoin a fantastic payment system, right? Now let's come to this point. Why do we need Bitcoin? See, if I have a physical 10 rupee note and I give it to a shopkeeper, he accepts it. There is no requirement for a middleman, right? But in a digital currency, this is not possible. Why? You need a UPI, you need a RTGS, you need a NEFT or HDFC bank. We need some kind of a digital intermediary. The reason being, if you have a 10 rupee note, to create a counterfeit note, it's not so easy. And even if you create it, it's easy to identify. But in the digital world, if you have one song file, you can make 1,000 copies of the song file, each exactly identical to each other. So how do we differentiate what is original and what is duplicate? That is the reason we had digital intermediaries. So Bitcoin bypassed that. Bitcoin created a way where we can have a common pool of miners. There's no one centralized entity, but the ledger is shared between multiple entities and they validate each and every transactions. So we are doing something without the middleman, right? So basically Bitcoin created two things. So first thing is provide a solution without a digital intermediary. Second thing, it created something called a digital scarcity. Before 2009, there was no concept called digital scarcity. If you have one movie file, you can create 10,000 copies and distribute it to all your friends, right? Today, you have one Bitcoin. I cannot copy that Bitcoin and make multiple Bitcoins, right? It's protected. That is the reason Bitcoin is having value. If this particular problem was not solved, Bitcoin will have no value, right? So I'm not getting into detail how this is achieved, right? I think maybe at later point of time, we can have a deep dive where we can talk about Merkle trees, Byzantine fault tolerance, and how Bitcoin makes this possible, right? But on the superficial level, Bitcoin has made this possible, right? Two things. One is avoidance of digital intermediary and creating digital scarcity. Also, Bitcoin was kind of inspired by gold, right? Gold is not produced in Earth. Whatever gold we have, it was produced billions of years ago in some kind of a supernova event or some in the core of a star, right? And when the planet of Earth got created, whatever gold was there then, that is the amount of gold that still remains, right? No new gold is created and we mine it. The reason gold has value is because of the scarcity. The reason why money is losing value is because of the abundance. We keep seeing things, how the price has changed, right? 20, 30 years ago with 10 rupees, I could buy so many items. Today, 10 rupees is almost meaningless. You give it to a beggar, right? You don't value 10 rupees that much. The reason being, the properties are not changed. If you're eating curd rice, then you're still eating curd rice with same ingredients. The thing that has changed is the purchasing power of money. This because government thinks whatever the deficit that they have, they can solve that by printing more and more money. And countries like United States, which has this exorbitant privilege, right? We do all the hard work. China does all the hard work, providing computers, electronics, and everything to US. We work overnight. We export IT services. They give dollars to us in return. And this dollars, they have like no effort in producing. They just keep printing dollars. That is the reason they have been doing this quantitative easing. They have been able to give a lot of stimulus during this COVID period. They gave like $1,000, $2,000 to their citizens because they can print dollars freely, and they have like no cost. And countries like India or China, they absorb this excess of foreign reserves, right? But when Bitcoin got created, the founder was pretty clear. The amount of currency that should be produced should be limited, right? Just like gold, right? And it should also be produced with effort. Money, government is printing freely, right? Without much effort, right? There should be some kind of an effort in creating money. If it's easily produced, then it will have no value. That is the reason why, like Mohan sir was saying, so much energy is expended in creating Bitcoins. And that is also the way you protect the Bitcoin network. That much amount of energy is protecting the Bitcoin network. That's how we should see it. Bitcoin is powered by electricity that can actually power small countries, right? Bitcoin consumes more electricity than what a lot of nations consume, right? And that is also the reason why creation of Bitcoin is called Bitcoin mining, because it was created with gold as example, right? Having talked about Bitcoin, right? People realize, okay, if you can remove digital intermediary in payment system, this is going to work wonders. For example, Visa or MasterCard, it charges 2% for moving data, right? They do the same work as email does, right? Moving data from point A to point B, right? But why should they charge so much money? Because they can, because there are only a handful of payment processors, Visa, MasterCard, Maestro, and recently we have RuPay and UnionPay, launched by government of India and China respectively. But they are charging because it's like an oligopoly market. Bitcoin is breaking this oligopoly by making payments as simple as email, right? So what other people saw was, okay, this is possible in payment systems. Why don't we replicate it to rest of the internet? That is how Ethereum was born, right? So Ethereum, what it does, it creates a decentralized Play Store. We have Google Play Store with so many apps, right? So Ethereum has a lot of dApps. dApps are called decentralized applications. I'll give a simple example. Let's take the example of Uber. What it does matching of a rider with the nearest driver. This is a very simple logic. There's no rocket science in that. But for doing this match, they charge 35% commission. So if you pay 200 rupees to the Uber driver, right, only so 130 rupees goes to the driver and 70 rupees goes to the pocket of Uber. That is the reason why Uber is one of the most valuable companies today, right? They are like, I think 65,000 crores or what, around that was what their valuation last time I checked, right? What if we could take this logic and put it on Ethereum blockchain for free? You can create something like sorts of Wikipedia, right? How Wikipedia, like 20 years back, when you want to have an access to an online encyclopedia, you need to buy a CD by Encarta, Britannica Encyclopedia, right? So, and knowledge was limited. It was not accessible to all. But after Wikipedia came, it broke all the barriers. Everyone could access information, right? And I don't think all the data that's stored in Wikipedia could fit within a CD, right? So the data also, the quality of knowledge also has improved, and the amount of knowledge also has improved, and it is accessible at a zero cost. That's the most important thing, right? Also look at how operating systems work. Microsoft Windows Professional, even today, it costs 20,000 rupees, almost the same cost of buying a software. But what is the marginal cost of the software? It's almost zero, right? They do a lot of R&D, they spend a lot of time in developing this OS, but there's actually no marginal cost, right? Look at your smartphones in the hands of all the people across the country, right? People are buying smartphones at 2,500 rupees, 3,000 rupees. The reason it is possible is because Android is open source. The operating system is open source. That is what created the mobile revolution. Without this Zomato, Uber, and all those things are not possible. If you are paying 20,000 rupees for an operating system and another 5,000 rupees for the mobile hardware, 25,000 rupees, how many people would access mobile, right? So in the start of 2000s, people had this question, right? Even Bill Gates, right? Would you trust an operating system that is created by a group of professionals or something that is created by community? Right? The owner of Britannica Encyclopedia said Wikipedia is like a public toilet. You don't know who used it before. or who will use it after? How do you trust the quality? But today, Wikipedia is like the standard of quality. Of course, there are some problems in that, but they have, I mean, like at least for 90-95% of the data, Wikipedia is accurate. And today, almost all the supercomputers and most organizations which want security, they all run on Android, right? So cryptocurrencies created this era where you can create decentralized systems. So Uber, whatever example I spoke, this logic you can create as a dApp and run it on Ethereum blockchain, right? My favorite example that I already used is something called a Brave internet browser. This browser anyone can download. Okay, it's called Brave, B-R-A-V-E. It's one of the fastest growing browsers. The experience is almost like Google Chrome. It's not much different because it uses, Chrome is also open source. They have taken the same source code and forked it. The beauty of this is, see, as a company, if I have to show ads, right? What do? I go to Google, I pay 1 lakh rupees and say, okay, show this ad to as many people as possible. He says, okay, this ad costs 10 rupees. For 1 lakh rupees, I'm going to show it to 10,000 people. And 10,000 people see it. Google makes all the money, right? And for me, I see my brand has reached to 10,000 people. That's how it's working now, right? But why do I need a middleman like Google? So what you otherwise do is, there is this token called Brave Attention Token. It's called BAT, right? You go to market, purchase 10,000 BAT tokens, right? And you put it in the browser and say, whoever watches this ad, you pay them 1 BAT, right? So as a user, you have 2 options, right? You can switch on the ad blocker. You will not watch any ads, right? So that's what a lot of people do, right? We try to shut all ads, or you can turn on the ads and you get paid. Okay, there's no middleman, right? The publisher pays to that person directly. So Google's major business comes from ad revenues, right? So similarly, think of all the internet companies that will get disrupted if this becomes mainstream. So if I am sharing my photo with Suresh and Mohan, right, I can create a decentralized platform and I can give access only to Suresh and Mohan, right? I don't want to a centralized entity going through all this data. See, what are the problems of these centralized entities, right? The centralized entity, first thing is they are having your data. That's the most important part. They know everything about you. How many kids you have, what was your purchase patterns, who is your favorite hero, what is your political thoughts, political views, right? So they know everything about you, likes, dislikes, and everything. And based on that, they try to manipulate you. That is the first biggest problem. The second biggest problem is they are also the central point of failure. So, so this is the current problem with net banking and everything, right? So in the introduction, they are talking about how we need an acknowledgement when something happens. In Bitcoin, when I send a Bitcoin payment, I can know for sure if the transaction has happened or not. There's a transaction ID that is generated. It is not just available for me or to the recipient, it's available for the whole world. From 2009 to till date, all the transactions that has ever happened in Bitcoin network, right? All the transaction IDs are available online. You can go to btc.com, right? There are around 7 lakh blocks. A block is like more like a page in the accounting book, right? So each page will have, let's say, 1,500 transactions, right? So entire history is available for public consumption. So Bitcoin is one of the world's first transparent payment systems, right? It's pseudo-anonymous. A lot of people think Bitcoin is anonymous. It is called pseudo-anonymous, right? It gives you all the addresses and all the transactions that have taken place, but it doesn't show you what are who was behind each of those addresses, but that can be determined by a lot of analytical software. So when I spoke about the evolution of internet, I spoke about like Web 1.0, where you had publishers who created content and rest of the people consumed. In Web 2.0, there was communities like Facebook, Twitter, where there was a lot of user-generated content. So user created content and consumed content. Now is the dawn of Web 3.0. Actually, what are the characteristics of Web 3.0? It is something that we'll know only 20 years later. We'll see, okay, in the last 10, 15 years, this is how internet has evolved. But the way things look like, people say in Web 3.0, you can consume content, you can create content. At the same time, you'll also own a piece of the network. Why should Zuckerberg own the network where I am typing, right? I can own the part of the network. I can buy a piece of Ethereum. I can buy a piece of Matic if I'm going to use Matic blockchain. So if you look at cryptocurrencies, there are around 13,000, 14,000 cryptocurrencies. Actually, creating cryptocurrency is not a big thing. Just like how creating websites is so easy. Like 20 years back or 10 years back, you say that I have a website in my own name. People will look at with awe, right? Wow, you have a website in your own name. That's so fascinating. That's so interesting. But today we all know creating website is it's a 2,000, 3,000 rupees job, right? Similarly, creating coins have become easy. It's as easy as creating apps. In many ways, you should see them as software application, just like apps only, right? Just like how each app has a specific functionality, specific use case. Each of those cryptocurrencies will have a specific use case, right? And like how 90% of the apps will generally fail, right? Even here, 90% of the cryptocurrencies will fail, right? Only a smartphone will have like capacity of like 20 to 30 frequently used apps, right? That's how it's going to be there for cryptocurrency also. So not all the cryptocurrencies are going to become winners, but just like how internet, what happened, the winners are going to have the winner take all, right? They'll have a huge market share, just like how Facebook has like 80% market share in the social media, or how Google has 80% market share in the search engine, right? Or Amazon in e-commerce, right? In the internet, it is just like 1 or 2 players who are going to have extreme market share, and rest of them will have like 1.5% market share. That is what will happen in cryptocurrencies also. So so far I've given you a glimpse of what cryptocurrency generally means, right? And after this, DeFi has come into picture. There is NFTs. So if I talk, I think I'll go on and on. I think we'll have 15 minutes left, so I'll spend some time for questions. So anyone has any questions so far?
No, how investor can buy, where he can buy, how to go. That is the first thing which everyone wants to know that.
Okay.
Suppose I want to invest in any Bitcoin, I mean any digital coin, crypto, where to go and what to do?
So see, that is the service that we provide. So I am founder of a platform called geotest.com. So we are more like an OLX, right? You are looking to buy, there'll be someone looking to sell, right? We connect these two people through an order book. Typically, this is how even the National Stock Exchange or Bombay Stock Exchange work, right? When you want to buy a HUL share, someone is selling a HUL share and the order matching takes place. That is the functionality we do, but the difference is we do it for cryptocurrency assets, right? If you are thinking about investing in cryptocurrencies, there are a few things that you have to keep in mind, right? A lot of people, new investors, the mistake that they do is they go for the cheapest cryptocurrency. They look at Shiba, Doge, Saitama, right? The mistake is that you should not, they are saying Bitcoin is already at 40 lakhs, right? Why should I pay so much for a cryptocurrency? Let me buy something cheap, 50 paisa or 1 rupee. And what if it becomes 10 rupees or 20 rupees? I'm going to make so much money, right? Look at the parallels in the real world. Gold, 1 gram is around 3,000 rupees. Iron, 1 kilo, you are getting at 10 rupees, right? Doesn't mean you go and buy the iron, 10 kilos, right? You still invest in gold. This is the same thing. If you are a beginner, you don't know much about cryptocurrencies, better to stick with just Bitcoin and Ethereum. They have a fantastic track record, right? Ethereum has 5-year history. Bitcoin has a 10-year plus history, right? This is what you do in stock markets also, right? When you start, you are always advised to start with blue chip, large cap, right? So similarly, here also, you start with the large cap or blue chip, which is Bitcoin and Ethereum. Maybe at least 80-90% of your portfolio, if not 100% of the portfolio, right? The other misconception is, should I buy a whole coin? Not necessary. You can even buy 0.0001 Bitcoin also, right? That is possible, right? In stock markets, you'll understand. I think MRF share is worth around 87,000 rupees. Doesn't mean just because Reliance share is worth around 2,500, MRF is more valuable than Reliance. It's also dependent on number of shares, right? Here, it's also dependent on number of coins. Just because something looks so small, right? Shiba Inu is so small. The supply of Shiba Inu is quadrillions. It's in multiple, I don't know how many zeros quadrillion has. I think around 12 or 15 zeros it should have. So it is because of that, the price is so low, right? And the next thing is, if you have a trading experience, you know how to trade, right? Then you are free to trade. But for a lot of people in trading, 90% of the people generally lose money. Only 10% will benefit. As an exchange, we benefit when there's a lot of trading activity. But as an investor, when you trade a lot, there are higher chances that you lose a lot of money. So if you're not into trading, what I would suggest is only buy and wait. So people call them hodlers, HODL. There is an interesting story why it's called hodl. I mean, you can Google it. But the important part is buy and hodl, because Bitcoin goes into 2 to 4 year cycles. There are a lot of times it will fall 50%, 40%, right? At that point in time, you should not panic. At the same time, it can also go 30%, 50% up. At that point of time, you should not FOMO and buy at a high rate, right? The sensible thing to do is, if you are planning to invest 1 lakh, right, do it in phases. Break your 1 lakh into multiple parts, right? Invest 10,000 this week, 10,000 next week. Do something like an SIP, right? So that you kind of average out the price and invest in cryptocurrencies for long term, and only invest in those cryptocurrencies which you think have long-term potential. And the last and most important thing, Bitcoin is extremely volatile, right? The opportunity that it can go 10x is because it can fail. In school, as I said, like Yahoo and Orkut was the most famous things, right? But today Orkut doesn't exist. Yahoo is bankrupt, right? So Bitcoin is the leader today. Most probably it will remain as a leader, but doesn't mean I'm 100% confident. I will not sell my house and put that money in Bitcoin. So if you understand that you are taking risk, this is an extremely volatile asset. Only invest money what you can lose. Don't take credit. Don't borrow and invest. Don't invest any money that you need in the next 6 months or 1 year, that you are forced to sell at a loss. Right? Invest only your disposable income that you are willing to lose. If you have a overall savings of like 100 rupees, maybe you should put 50-60% in stock market and put 2 to 5% in cryptocurrencies. Right? If it becomes 10x, that becomes 50% of your portfolio. If it becomes zero also, you're still left with 95% of your portfolio intact. Right? That's how you should look at it. This is a very bleeding edge technology. A lot of disruption is happening. A lot of things are changing on a day-to-day basis. NFT was not a phenomenon 2 years back. DeFi was not there 3-4 years back. Things are changing on a day-to-day basis. So watch it closely. If you're not watching it closely, then just stick to Bitcoin and Ethereum. And it's just like insurance.
That means if I come to your exchange and buy, suppose I wait, then I sell. That means I will get back my rupee. That's what you are saying.
Yes. See, and
that's what
government is also bringing regulations. We should expect regulations. Hopefully, it was supposed to come in the winter session. It didn't, because it's definitely a complicated thing, right? You have technology on one side, it's a payment system on the other side. There's a lot of trading activity, which makes it similar to security. So SEBI, RBI, who should control it? How should they license an exchange? A lot of questions that are coming. See, even in an equity world, there are multiple partners, right? There's a brokerage, exchange, custodian. Here it's all one. So government will regulate this. At that point of time, we'll have much more clarity. So it will also become much more safer to invest, right? But right now, you can definitely invest. Whenever you want to sell, you can sell, right? Bitcoin has become mainstream in the last 2 years. So today, world's most richest person is someone called Zhao, who is the owner of Binance, one of the world's largest exchanges. So I think that shows crypto has kind of become mainstream. So you can definitely invest. There are a lot of avenues. You can invest in more than 90 coins. There are multiple products within cryptocurrencies where you can earn interest, you can stake. So there are a lot of things in cryptocurrencies. We can definitely help you, right? So we have a customer care which will guide you, right? How do you make your first purchase? How do you store it? How do you withdraw? So we can help you in all those lines.
But I would like to ask you, you said there is a very safe system, etc. In spite of it, a lot of scandals are happening in cryptocurrencies. How is it possible? Because the person who floats the currency disappears once money is taken, you know.
See, that is the reason why I am talking about investing in Bitcoin and Ethereum. See, This is in a lot of ways like angel investing. I think a lot of senior people here, they would have done a lot of angel investing also. Like, what do you do when you invest in a company, in a startup? You look at what is the team, what is the vision, what is the market size, who are the competition, how they can do. You have to do all this analysis and then make the investment, right? What if the startup runs away with your money? These questions you'll still ask them, right? Or what do, you wait till an IPO happens, and when it's listed, it's crossed 4 or 5 years, you have seen their experience, what they have done, what they have committed, and then make the investment. So that's why I'm saying Bitcoin, Ethereum, they are matured to that level, right? the founders are kind of trustworthy, right? They don't do a lot of rug pull. See, when there is a lot of interest in something, right, people also find a ways to scam people, like how Taj Mahal has been sold multiple times, and how people bring Ponzi schemes, MLM into everything. I think there is a crazy thing that even for EMU, right, they got MLM into it, right? What kind of mistake that EMU do, right? It is not the nature of the product. It is just that the nature of people. People are able to take your greed and turn that into a scam, right? So if you are going to invest, don't invest through an agent. Don't invest with anyone who promises you guaranteed income, right? Someone says you get 10% for sure on a day-to-day basis, on a monthly basis. Don't invest, right? Because just like stock market, crypto is also going through cycles. I cannot guarantee what will be the price of Bitcoin tomorrow. The best thing is to take direct exposure. Buy a part of Bitcoin yourself, like 0.001, if that's what you can afford, right? Rather than going through an agent or a middleman. You buy it directly. That is the best way to do it. Until you understand the ecosystem, who are legitimate players, who are doing this rug pull, who are scammers, stick to just Bitcoin and Ethereum. Once your learning and understanding grows, you can slightly expand your investment also.
Mr. M. Shankar, I think you raise your hand. You can talk.
Yeah. See, is there any app that you can buy the Bitcoin? Number one.
Yeah, it's GeoTest.
Number two,
you can buy it in our app. So I can only talk about my exchange. So you can buy it in this. So we are a Chennai-based exchange. We have a head office in Chennai. So if you have any doubts, we also have a customer care. You can call to this customer care, or you can even mail me. I'm also sharing my mail ID.
Okay. The second point is, what is the waiting period normally expected? When you say it is only an investment, don't trade. So what will be the time period that you have to wait?
There's a concept called Bitcoin halving, right? Every 4 years, amount of Bitcoins that get produced becomes half. In 2010, every 10 minutes, 50 Bitcoins got produced. In 2013, it became 25. In 2017, it became 12.5. In May 2020, it became 6.25. So also the Bitcoin cycles, the bull cycle also has this 4-year cycles, right? So look at Bitcoin price, for example. In 2017 starting, it started with around 20,000, 30,000 rupees, right? It ended at 13 lakhs. And then it started crashing. It crashed for one whole year. It reached the lowest point, I think around 1.5 lakh rupees in 2018 December. Then from 2018 December, it has on a continuous increase, right? And now the prices, it reached around 50 lakhs in May 2021, and now it's at 35 lakhs, right? So there's a lot of fluctuation happening. So if you had bought at the heights of 2017, if you had bought one Bitcoin at 13 lakhs, you should have waited till around May 2020, I think June, July 2020, when the price again touched that level, right? So sometimes you might have to wait even for 3 years.
But what about the liquidity, Suppose, as you said, I'm waiting for the peak price. But when I want to dispose, somebody should buy it,
So the liquidity is very high. So in NFTs, the liquidity is not there. But Bitcoin, every day, millions of people buy and sell Bitcoins, right? So when you are buying Bitcoin, there are definitely going to be a lot of people selling. See, as long as it's in the mainstream, it's a successful thing. When the price is rising only because there is an increased investor interest. See, today, let's assume you have one Bitcoin. If you're going to sell at marketplace price, already there are a lot of people to buy. But you are not finding anyone. If you say, I'm going to give one Bitcoin at 5,000 rupees less than the market rate, there's going to be a queue in front of you, right? So that's how the liquidity is developed, and Bitcoin has extremely good liquidity. It has more liquidity than most stocks in the market. I cannot say the same about all cryptocurrencies, but every day, even in India, 200, 300 crores worth of Bitcoin transactions take place.
So you mean to say that it should be sold only on discounted rate?
No, I'm just giving you an example. That's how markets work, supply and demand, right? When everyone is selling and there's no demand, then the price normally reduces. When there's a lot of buyers and you are trying to sell, you will get a very good rate, right? So that's how the market functions.
Indian currency?
That's how. So see, right now, when you are buying it, today, what I'll say is you want to buy for 10,000 rupees. You deposit 10,000 rupees in GeoTest platform, right? And you go and put an order for 10,000 rupees. When you are buying, there'll be someone who will be selling it to you, right? So when you are selling, at that point in time, there'll be someone who will be buying it from you. That's how the order book functions. See, this is what same thing happens in stock market. But in stock market, they hide all those things behind. You put an order, you see, okay, you have bought 10 Infosys shares, right? But underneath, this is what is happening. I can promise extremely good liquidity for Bitcoin, Ethereum, right? Top 5, top 10 coins, right? Only if you go to this 100th coin, 200th coin, if you have 10 lakhs worth of that coin, it will be very difficult to sell at different points of time, right? See, because these are all virtual assets, right? The liquidity is pooled from across the world. You are not just selling in Chennai, you are selling it across India in geotest, right? And there are avenues where you can sell across the world. So having Bitcoin and selling it, it's not going to be a problem. As long as you have the legitimate coin. There will be some people who will try to sell you a scam coin, right? Or you are having some Arjun coin, right? For that, finding a buyer will be a very difficult thing, right? But for Bitcoin, Ethereum and all, there are no issues in selling it.
28294457. You raise the hand, sir. You can ask question.
Sir, I just want to understand what is the role of the so-called founders of Bitcoin and Ethereum, and who controls or who regulates the supply of these Bitcoins and Ethereum? As far as stocks are concerned or currency is concerned, we have a fairly good idea of what is the total stocks in circulation, total money in circulation, whether it is US dollars or Indian rupee or whatever. But as far as these cryptocurrencies are concerned, who actually controls the supply? Who regulates the supply of new cryptocurrencies?
Okay, so I have given you a site called coinmarketcap.com. So this is where you can check what is the circulating supply, what is the maximum supply and all those things. Right? It's very difficult to talk about cryptocurrencies in general because each and every token has their own system. For example, Bitcoin, it is not controlled by any single person. The guy who created it, Satoshi Nakamoto, he went anonymous, right? From 2012, he has disappeared from the community itself. So we don't know who that guy is. So now it's completely centrally governed, just like how Linux has no owners now, right? It's controlled by the foundation. It's more like a democracy, right? That is point number one. Point number two, if you look at Ethereum, Ethereum is controlled by people called founder called Vitalik Buterin, and there is a group of people. But the whole idea of these crypto projects is at some point it becomes like the public well or the ponds in your area, right? No one will control it. It's for public good. Just like how gold is. Gold is not controlled by anyone. That is the idea these people are starting it. So, and what a lot of projects do is they firsthand they commit what will be the maximum supply and how the supply is going to get distributed in future. For example, they say, I'm going to launch an Arjun coin in which 20,000 coins, I'm going to sell it to public at the rate of 1 rupee per coin. 20,000 coins, I'm going to use it for marketing efforts. 20,000 coins will be used for developers. Right, the remaining is 40,000 coins will be locked with the project, and we might use it like ESOP or something in later point of time. Right, so the coin supply they fix it at the starting. Right, for them to increase. Right, overall the people who are in the governance they have to give an approval. So the thing is like once people are committed to something and then increase the supply later point of time, it reduces the credibility of the project. So normally this is not happening. See, if you look at US, what is happening? They are increasing the debt ceiling multiple times because in politics, in terms of US dollar or Indian rupee, you are dependent on the president or prime minister staying within the budget, following the norms, and we hope they believe rationally, right? But here in Bitcoin, it's all governed by mathematics, right? So every 210,000 blocks, right, the supply of Bitcoin should become half. So as I said, in 2010, 50 Bitcoins were being produced. At that point of time, Bitcoin's value was nothing. That's the reason someone paid 10,000 Bitcoins for 2 pizza. Right? As the amount of supplies keep on be reducing, right? In 2023, it will become 3.125 Bitcoins. New Bitcoins are issued every 10 minutes. Right? How this is issued, how the Bitcoins are mined, it's a separate thing. I will take at least 10-15 minutes to explain. It's a beautiful concept. See, look at this idea, right? Bitcoin is like an organism with a mind of its own. Normally, if you look at Zoom or any software, every year they create new updates. They add new features. For example, Facebook has added stories. in the last few years, right? But the beauty of Bitcoin is without a centralized entity, it has been able to continuously run, right? That is also a very important thing. See, when Trump was heading US, a lot of people lost confidence on US. There's something called a founder risk, right? No matter how good a particular company or country has been doing, you might get a crazy founder or a crazy king or a crazy prime minister, and you start losing confidence in that company. That's what happens, right? When you have a founder risk. But in a good democracy, in a company with good corporate governance, these kind of problems are avoided. When they falter, they are replaced by someone who is capable. That is how these projects are getting built, right? And of course, there are also a lot of scams, right? When there are so many good projects, there are definitely going to be so many bad projects, right? In Tamil cinema, you have hundreds of movies, right? You will always have 10, 20 good quality movies and 10, 20 worse movies, right? And something in between also. Some people are genuine triers, but they don't have the capability to implement the vision, or they are even taking wrong problem to solve, right? So it's almost like investing in Zoom. It's almost like investing in a Facebook or a Skype, right? You think, okay, this is what people are going to use it for. And at some point of time, the usage is going to increase, adoption is going to increase. At that point of time, the value of token can increase. That's why I'm investing. You need to have an investment thesis and then make an investment. More or less, this is more like a software product only, right? With some decentralization, so that there is no one particular person or entity controlling everything in the organization.
Mr. Manish, raise the hand, please, sir, your question.
Is that can you suggest any resource to understand the basics of blockchain, Bitcoin, and cryptocurrency from a fundamental point of view?
There are a lot of, I see anyone who wants to start learning about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, I would suggest please start with the Bitcoin white paper, right? You have to just Google Bitcoin white paper. It is 7 pages long and it's very simple. They don't talk anything tech over there. They say how a Bitcoin should function, right? After reading that white paper, even if you don't understand, there are a lot of YouTube videos like how Bitcoin works, right? You will be able to understand, right? So, and
my question is basically to understand what is a coin, what is a blockchain, and what is a cryptocurrency.
So that's what, how Bitcoin works. If you search in YouTube, there are a lot of tutorials and a lot of beautifully animation videos are there. They show how a block is created, right? What is a valid block, right? So all those things. And if you see, and it slightly gets complex when you move to other cryptocurrencies. Ethereum, Solana, and all extremely complex. So the important thing is we don't try to understand how UPI works, how RTGS works, how NFT works. We take it for granted, right? So if you are really interested, you can go and study that, but it is not mandatory that everyone should understand Bitcoin. Everyone should understand how Ethereum works. This is not going to happen. Like all the people who are going to invest in Bitcoin, not everyone is going to understand. So, but don't think that is like a, yeah.
My question was only just to understand what is a Bitcoin, what is a blockchain, and what is a cryptocurrency. That's it.
Mr. Ajit,
blockchain is the data structure used by Bitcoin. Okay, how you are able to. So the key things is if you go to 2010, if you change one small entry, right, one transaction, you try to delete it. If all the data that follows it becomes corrupted. Right? How that there's a mechanism, how each and every block is created a valid. There's something called SHA-256 hash. We don't have the scope to cover it in this session. Maybe in a different session, we will talk about how Bitcoin works under the hood. And there we can try to talk about all these things. There are beautiful animation videos that describe each and everything, right? In a beautiful visual manner. So you can go and search in YouTube.
Mr. Ajit Pradap.
Yeah, thank you, sir. I have one question. Most of the countries, they are not approving cryptocurrency because they have a fear like this will spoil their economy or their control on the economy, and the medium can be used for a lot of illicit activities. So, and to me, it looks fair also. The countries might lose control on their economy if they approve or allow the Bitcoin or cryptocurrency to happen. So,
see,
what's your view on this?
Yeah, the saying
that is one of the major region countries are not approving.
See, the saying is no one can stop a technology whose time has come. right? This has happened multiple times throughout the history. In UAE, they are banning WhatsApp calls, Viber calls, because they think their local telecom business will get affected. But at some point in time, they have started allowing. Look at COVID. Without internet calls, how would you even do anything, right? So people can try to create dams and stop technologies. But if a technology is good, it's going to survive. That's number one. Number two is, this is a misconception that a lot of countries are not allowing it, right? First of all, you have to understand, first a technology is created, then the regulation is followed, right? You cannot invent a regulated technology. Government will put rules, and within the rules only you'll invent something. That doesn't happen, right? People try to build products which are beautiful, which work beautifully, and then government will create regulations around that. That's how Uber and Ola has happened, right? Or e-commerce. When did e-commerce first come into India, and when did e-commerce regulations come into India? Or look at internet, right? We are still not finalized the internet regulations. We are still talking about data privacy. Maybe 2 years from now, we will have different aspects of internet that will get regulated, right? So unregulated doesn't mean illegal. Bitcoin so far has been banned only in one country, that is China. Also one developed country, I will say, developed or developing country, that is China. Every other country, they are thinking about regulation or regulating it. Japan has completely regulated cryptocurrencies. South Korea has created a regulation around cryptocurrencies. Australia has created a regulation around cryptocurrencies. In US, you have companies like Coinbase, which is an exchange like us, but at much larger scale. They are listed in NASDAQ, right? So regulations are happening, but we should also understand, internet was first created in 1970, right? There was this ARPANET and all those things in 1969, 1970, right? Internet became mainstream in the 1990s, right? And we are still creating internet laws. So it is going to take time, because government needs to understand this. And it's also not easy, because there's also a payment aspect associated with it. But having said that, European countries and US, they see it as a fundamental right for someone to own a virtual asset. How can you ban someone from creating something in computer, right? Or exchanging it. So if you look at NFTs and all those things, everywhere it's regulated and people are allowed, right? And it's very difficult for all these countries to go back. China, it's always a different case. China wants complete control, right? They want everything to be centralized. They will decide what you can post. They have technically banned internet because Google doesn't work, Wikipedia doesn't work, Netflix doesn't work, or a lot of social media applications, they don't work in China, including Facebook, right? So China has their own internet. They have their own Alibaba, Baidu, and even within that, Jack Ma, the most famous person out of China, right? He spoke against the government and he's now nowhere. So China needs complete control, and they think these kind of decentralized technologies will take control away from them. That is the reason they have banned it. That's their ulterior motive. They don't want to give power to the people. People should not have freedom to choose. So we should not take Chinese example, but that is the reason from 2013 to till date, RBI has created multiple warnings against cryptocurrencies. What they are saying is, this is a very volatile asset. It can go by 30% in a day. It can also go down by 30% in a day. It's unregulated. So when you're investing, invest carefully. This is the warnings they have been giving it since 2013. In 2018, they came up with a circular that crypto entities like us, we should not be given bank accounts. This was quashed by Supreme Court in 2020, right? Even in Indian government, they were talking about banning cryptocurrencies over the years, right? In 2021 February, they are about to pass a bill that would have banned Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, but they started seeing the promise, right? The way, if internet is going to get decentralized, we are going to have decentralized social media. We're going to have decentralized Uber, Ola apps, right? It's only creating more value for people, right? So wherever in agriculture, we keep talking about removing middlemen. Even in internet, we need to remove middlemen. Look at Book My Show. We are paying 30 rupees to 50 rupees as convenience charges to book a ticket. But there's no rocket science or so complication that for booking a ticket, you have to pay 50 rupees every time. They are in the middle and they're making the money. When you are creating systems where the user can interact directly with the supplier, right? I should be able to book directly with the airlines. Blockchain and cryptocurrencies can enable that. So that is there's a value. Internet is fundamentally getting disrupted and rebuilt. And this is a potential technology that we cannot miss. That is the reason Indian government now they are talking about regulating cryptocurrencies, because there's potential in it, right? So in 1990s, we missed the huge wave. If you look at the smartphone, look at the number of apps that are created from India by Indians. Right? Maybe there is Paytm, there will be one or two banking apps, but otherwise for anything for internet, we use international apps. Right? The reason is internet came late to India and the regulation didn't foster a lot of innovation. Even now a bike taxi, people are not sure if it's legal or illegal. Right? So, and now internet is getting built for the second time and we ban this, we'll miss the opportunity. Right? 10-20 years later, people will end of the day. So in 1920s, a lot of people tried to ban machine-created clothing. That we should go for hand-created clothing. Right? Where are we today? End of the day, when customer given a choice, he will choose a high-quality machine woven at a lower cost, rather than having a handmade, lower cost and lower quality, higher cost thing. Right? Anything that we are wearing, I think most of the people who wear, then we are not wearing handicraft because it's not convenient. The same thing can happen here also. No matter what governments want, it's the people's choice and people will always choose a better system. So that is the reason Indian government didn't ban it. They're talking about regulating it. And in a matter of a year or two, they will regulate it. See, in 2017, when we started geotest, we had this question, what if Indian government bans it? Because banning is the easiest thing you can do. You don't have to think a lot when you are trying to ban it. When you are regulating, as I said, you need to see how it will get regulated. Should they separate custodianship and this thing? What are the rules they have to frame? Whether SEBI should govern it because it's a security, or it looks like currency, RBI should govern it. How does FEMA rules apply here? How do I license an exchange? What is the qualifying criteria? All those things, it gives a lot of headache. Banning is easy, but Indian government is still choosing to regulate because that's the right thing to do. So we always believed Indian government will inevitably regulate. That's the reason we started this in the first place.
So now when you ask some question, you want to repeat? Sir, mute, you are on mute.
No, basically three questions which normally come to the mind of a trader or an investor in this. See, one is, how do I choose a particular cryptocurrency, whether it is Bitcoin or Ethereum, on what basis, any fundamental analysis or technical analysis or charts are available. This is one thing, and what level to enter, what level to exit. Because in case of a company, I know that if it is a cement company, I know that the cement offtake is improved and the margins are improving, so I can go and buy or I can sell it. So on what basis? This is one. The second is, what are the charges when we buy or sell? Is there, what kind of brokerage or commission or anything, what do we pay? And do we really have a need for so many exchanges throughout the world and in India? So that is something I wanted to know. The third one is any taxation angle on two different taxation angles. One is direct tax. How is it treated, as a long-term capital gain, short-term capital gain, holding period of 1 year or 3 year, whatever it is, and what is it? On the other side, when I buy, do I pay a security transaction tax? As if I'm sure STD is not there, but GST or stamp duty or what are the charges?
So one by one. So when we talk about cryptocurrencies, normally we try to see it under a single umbrella, but it's not the case. Just like how we have social media applications separately, this kind of webinar oriented, Zoom, Skype separately, we have communication oriented, right? We have Telegram, Signal, WhatsApp. So just like how we can segregate different applications, right? Games are separate, right? Email applications are separate. Video OTT platforms are separate. Similarly, in cryptocurrencies also you can separate. Right? There are some attributes that you can use overall. The first and foremost is there are no cash flows here, at least for most cryptocurrencies. So we have to look at in the more from the point of commodities like gold, which don't have any cash flows. How do you price gold? How do you invest in gold? The same thing applies here, but at the same time, it's also a software, right? So gold is kind of dumb. It doesn't provide information. How many people use it? How many people own it, right? But here it's tech. Anything related to tech, you get a lot of data. So if you look at Bitcoin, what are the number of active addresses that hold Bitcoin, right? You can use that to measure adoption. You can see whether the addresses are adding Bitcoin or reducing Bitcoin, right? So basically the first measure of any tech is adoption. How many people are actively using it? Then we get into the categories, right? If you talk about Ethereum, as I said, is like a Play Store, right? How do you measure if this is a good platform or not? Right. First thing is a platform is successful when there is a lot of application on that. When the developers love that, right? So what is the general developer view? Like there is a lot of competition for Ethereum also, right? The smart contract platforms, layer 1, there is Solana, there is Luna, there is EOS, Tron, Waves, right? There are multiple platforms that are trying to occupy this space, because each and every transaction through Ethereum right now, it's extremely costly. It costs 3,000 rupees, 2,500 rupees, right? At the same time, without affecting the decentralization, how do I increase the throughput? What is the cost of executing one particular transaction? If Solana is saying they're going to solve all these problems, are developers believing it, right? And other developers are the middlemen, right? For example, if you want to invest in AWS, right? How do you measure if AWS is good or Google Cloud is doing better? You look at what are the companies doing, right? You don't do it yourself, right? You look at companies like Geotest, you look at companies like Netflix, which particular cloud platform they are choosing and why they are choosing it. End of the day, whatever the developers choose, that is going to be the #1 cloud platform. Whom they don't choose, they're going to be #2 or #3. So when it comes to smart contract platforms, you have to look at developer preferences. What are the number of dApps that are there? And in a lot of cases, these dApps are also tokens, right? Tether, Matic, Chainlink, right? Shiba Inu, these all are tokens that are running on Ethereum blockchain. So now look at all the value of all the tokens that are running on Ethereum blockchain. Compare that with value of tokens that are running on Tron blockchain. Compare that with values that are running on this thing. So you will not be able to value it, but you can price it. Okay, this is having 10,000 applications, this is having 500 applications, and this is growing at certain pace. This is degrowing. I would rather put my money in this platform over the other. Then there are exchanges like decentralized exchanges. So whatever I am doing, right? I am taking your money, INR, and converting that into Bitcoin. I'm helping you do that process. The logic is very simple. I have to match the price and execute the order. The same logic people have created crypto decentralized exchanges, right? But here you will not be able to use INR. If you have one kind of cryptocurrency, you can convert that into another kind of cryptocurrency as long as it's using the same platform. For example, you can change one Ethereum token into another Ethereum token, right? Like I said, if you have Chainlink, you can convert that into SHIB. If you have like you have SHIB, you want to convert that into Saitama, you can do that, right? So these are called decentralized exchanges, and they are really popular. One important thing is they don't need permission for someone to add an asset, right? We have a listing process. We will add certain assets, we will not add certain assets. But in a decentralized exchange, anything can be added. So a lot of trading happens there because most of the coins get listed in the decentralized exchange for the first time. Now, how do you compare across decentralized exchange? First thing is, which is the #1 exchange? You look at by the volume. So compare Uniswap, SushiSwap, PancakeSwap. See what is the amount of volume that is getting traded. See, the second part is, I'd say this is the most important part. Every token has a tokenomics, right? How that particular token will get used in the ecosystem, right? Just like you have a token in the canteen, use it for tea, coffee, right? A token needs to have a purpose. The users of the token, for example, in a SushiSwap, they might get a discount, or the holders might get a dividend, right? You need to understand this process, right? It should not be a meaningless token. It should not be like a fan token. You hold a Sachin Tendulkar autograph card. It's not for any use, right? You are not going to get any earnings based out of it. So first part is you should understand the tokenomics. Second part is whether they are clearly the leaders, right? The third part is what is the cost of exchange. So when I'm changing Chainlink, so this is the second question also he asked, right? Sir, what are the charges that are being levied? So what are the charges when I use a DEX? How is one platform better than the other? Are they able to, and see, when it comes to exchange, there are also a lot of other things. There is something called a transparency. When people can see in public what is the order you are putting, they'll try to front run you. How is the exchange protecting you from that? So all these things will kind of decide which is going to become the mainstream exchange in future, right? So if you're able to invest in the correct tech right now, you'll be able to benefit out of it. So we can go on and on. There are NFT platforms. There are DeFi. So there are exchange, just like how we have centralized finance institutions like banks, you can put money, earn interest. You can borrow money from the bank and pay interest. You can do the same thing in cryptocurrencies also. I am having 10 Ethereum. Each Ethereum is costing me 2 lakhs, 20 lakhs. I don't want to sell it immediately, right? But I also need money. I can keep this 20 Ethereum as collateral and get 10,000 USDT. And 10,000 USDT, I can sell it here for 7 lakhs. Right? I'm having cash and I'm also holding Ethereum, and I'll pay interest, right? Whatever is being contributed. So a lot of people, they'll put this 10,000 USDT and earn interest. And all those things are done by smart contracts. There is no human intervention, right? Based on demand supply, the interest rates are automatically decided and things happen. So when you talk about lending protocols, you look at all those things that I already spoke about. What is the amount of assets that are held as collateral?
Sorry, Mr. Vijay, sorry to interfere. See, my question is more on when Reliance is traded in Bombay Stock Exchange and NSE, most of us prefer to go to NSE because the liquidity is very high there and impact cost is very low. The impact cost is a very important component, so that way the impact cost is very wide when you look at BSE or most of the other, other things. So there is no need to have too many exchanges, and SEBI shut down all the regional stock exchanges, and only one centralized order matching engine came, which is NSE today. BSE is following. So that's the question, because it's the same Bitcoin, whether I buy through or buy through someone else. I mean, so how does it, that's the question I ask.
So see, if you look at a stock market and crypto entity, the key difference is in stock, there are separate players, right? You have a depositories, you have a settlements, you have a stock exchange like NSE or a BSE, then you have a brokerage, right? Then also you have like CAMS kind of institutions, right? And then there's mutual funds and all those things. A lot of times in cryptocurrency market, because this is a very nascent tech, we are doing all these things,
right? Which means the trading is done there, matching engine is there, and clearing and settlement is also happening there. There is no separate clearing house. Okay.
No separate clearing house, and we are the custodian, and we are also customer facing entity like the brokerage, right?
Okay.
So when the regulations come, maybe this can become separate entities, but if you look at Coinbase, they do all this and they are listed as a single entity in the US stock market. So having said that, if you look at the banks, right? So we are actually in the culmination of two important industries. One is securities like stock exchanges. The other part is like the bank, right? So just like how whatever you do fintech, you talk about Razor Pay, you talk about net banking, you talk about Google Pay and all those things, bank plays a central role, right? And you look at the number of bank branches across the country, right? So here crypto exchanges play a central role. If you want to stake, if you want to have a crypto payment platform, you want to may have a crypto cards, right? Payment cards. You have Bitcoin, you want to spend it on a supermarket. You want to earn loyalty on that. So all those things, exchanges make it possible, right? Exchanges also provide the customer support, right? NSE doesn't provide the customer support, right? So there may be a case you'll have multiple exchanges also, right? It's something that we have to decide. See, every industry, there are two different ways it goes. One is a winner take all, where you have like, just like said, in social media, you have Facebook. In messaging, we only use WhatsApp. In search, we only use Google. And rest of them is very fragmented market, DuckDuckGo, Bing, and all those things. So it can go either ways, but we are in the very initial days, right? Because the industry itself is 10 years old. The world's most oldest stock crypto exchange is less than 7-8 years old, right? 2013 is when the major crypto exchanges started. And there are a lot of products also being created, like a mutual fund based product, ETFs, right? You need to have derivatives, futures and options. So we will have to wait for another 5 to 10 years to see how this consolidation takes place, or consolidation will never take place. It will be a fragmented market. So when you talk about charges, at Geotas, we charge 25 basis points for a buy. So if you buy for 1 lakh rupees, we charge 250 rupees. When you sell, we charge 15 basis points. So when you sell for 1 lakh rupees, we charge 150 rupees. So this is our business model.
And one, Mr. Krishnan, please, sir, please go ahead.
And also, because we are virtual, there's also possibility of liquidity pooling, right? We can take liquidity from other international exchanges. We already do that for crypto to crypto trading. When you want to convert Bitcoin into Ethereum, it doesn't go through our order books. It goes through an order book of international exchange called Bitfinex, right? Even for INR, at some point in time, there will be pooling of liquidity so that customers get best liquidity and best slippage. So it depends on how the market is maturing, whether we become the Zerodha or we become the national stock exchange, whether we are going to have one centralized exchange and lot of brokerages, or there will be one single entity that does the end-to-end work. There is also custodianship. There is also specialized services like cold wallet. You want to store your Bitcoin securely. How do I help that? You also need advisory services, right? I think most of the people in this platform, they are looking for what coin to buy, what coin to invest. Right now, the exchange is becoming the fulcrum, because there are no ancillary industries here. Once the regulations come into picture, whether they encourage us to do these kind of things, or whether they try to ask us not to do all those things, separate our entities, right? So this is something that we have to look at it. So two things will decide. One is the industry and the market behavior. Second thing is the regulations, whether we'll have multiple exchanges or multiple entities.
Mr. Krishnan Subramaniam asked, is it advisable to buy Ripple? And
Not
whether
much.
more than one person can buy, jointly they can buy any currency?
See, the thing is, there is not a lot of clarity in this, right? And so even government laws and all those things, as an exchange, we do a lot of self-regulations. For example, we take KYC, we take the PAN card, we take the Aadhaar card, right? Aadhaar card or voter card or passport, any of the identity proofs along with PAN card, and then we have a bank account verification, then we approve the account, right? None of the government agencies ask us to do this, but we do it on our own volition so that we don't get into trouble in future. We know which are the entities who are trading with us. So when we have these kind of complex questions, there are no clear rules defined, right? So we try to keep it simple and avoid these kind of complications, because at some point of time when government agency comes and asks, how did you allow this? We don't want to get into trouble. So it's better to do it on a single basis. Maybe if you are looking to invest 1,000 rupees, invest 500 rupees in your account, 500 rupees in the other person's account, right? Do it equally rather than having a joint account.
Mr. V. Rajendran, please, sir, you raise your hand. Unmute, sir, unmute.
Thank you. Thank you, Hindustan Chamber of Commerce, for the opportunity. And Ajay, the cryptocurrency lecture is very good. In fact, you have put up an extremely strong case in favor of cryptocurrency as COO. Naturally, you are quite justified in doing it. But I have always been an antagonist of cryptocurrency. I've always stood against cryptocurrency. In fact, my article on cryptocurrency appeared in Hindustan Chamber of Commerce about 5-6 months back. All of you must be aware. My main concern on cryptocurrency is that you also, just a few minutes back, you accepted that though the government does not insist that we should take KYC, we are taking KYC. It's a very nice confession that you made. My main confession, my main objection arises from this confession only. Government does not insist on KYC for a cryptocurrency account. Cryptocurrencies have been or being, and I'm very sure will be also in future, used mainly for illegal transactions, illegitimate trade, international drug peddling, particularly black money, bribe money in terms of not in thousands or 500 rupees, or Tahsildar receives about 200 rupees for giving a certificate, not of this type. Bribe money which runs into lakhs, I would even say crores. So this, should the government keep its eyes closed when the economy itself is going to be adversely impacted? Government took very strong effort in banning it, but unfortunately, since the government the government pleaders, the advocates could not put up a strong case in front of the Supreme Court. The case was not fought very strongly by the advocates. Supreme Court also failed to look at the issue for more its ramifications. So it passed the verdict that the government RBI order, to use the right word, is disproportionate. Supreme Court only said that the RBI circular banning cryptocurrency is disproportionate. So, as on date, cryptocurrency is indirectly permitted in India. But I'm very sure it will have a very, very adverse impact on the economy. And cryptocurrency should not be compared with the NEFT or RTGS, as you again and again try to do it. Because the entire concept of NEFT or RTGS or anything, my learned friend Mr. Vallipar will certainly agree with me. The entire amount which is in SEBI is completely regulated. Any country, any person, any group of persons or a company, whatever the amount in a particular company is very transparent. At least when there is a question, SEBI will say, SEBI is bound to say. But in cryptocurrency, that thing is not there. The entirely is completely opaque. Nobody can even know how much money is at stake. So, should such currency be led to flourish in the country?
See, first thing is, so if you talk to any police or any lawyer, the important thing that they'll say is the difference between cash and digital payments is that digital payments leave a trail. Cash doesn't leave a trail. Gold doesn't leave a trail. The important thing about cryptocurrencies is, at least most of these cryptocurrencies, right? They leave a trail. The data is there for everyone to analyze, right? So when we talk about regulations, this is what we are talking about, right? To allow it for the right, legitimate purposes, and whenever it's used for bad activities, of course, take it into action, right? With the kind of data analytics, the kind of capabilities that we have today, it's easy to analyze, right? With respect to banks or with respect to cash, a lot of things is black box. Today, corruption is happening or across the world. USD is the major mode of payment for all kinds of drug peddlers and all those things. You routinely see HSBC Bank has been fined $10 billion. Danish Bank fined $11 billion for aiding money laundering and all those things. Right? Even sovereign banks have been, wealth funds have been accused of these kind of things. Malaysia, I think, was a recent example. So this is like how most of the regulators across the world should treat it, are treating it, especially in US and Europe. This is a child, right? You are looking at how this child is getting mature. You should not try to restrict the child at the early age, right?
But excuse me, Mr. Arun. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be argumentative. The child, right from the time of its birth, is destined to be illegal, whereas the other children were not destined to be illegal, isn't it? This child, in the first word it speaks, the first step it speaks, it is being used only for illegal, illegitimate activities, ransomware, and no other technology, including WhatsApp or Facebook, whichever you wanted to compare with cryptocurrency, they never carry any such stigma around them like cryptocurrency.
Can I, Arjun, can I reply to that partly?
Yeah, Velliyappan, yeah. Nice to hear Velliyappan now.
Yeah, see, there was a concept called round tripping. When you look at it, this round tripping was rampant in stock markets still a few years back, you know, until the Supreme Court formed a special committee for this purpose, and then the KYC on participatory notes were tightened. There was Cayman Island where the population is 55,000 and the money came from Cayman Island to India was 88,000 crores. So whose money it is? So this is something which is happening in any thing in a formative period. So probably this should be regulated. I am with you on this, that until it is regulated, me personally, I will not touch this technology. That I am very clear about it. True. I am losing a lot of opportunities. I know that I'm a person in the market for a long time. By not touching the crypto, I'm losing a lot of opportunity. My son trades in crypto in Singapore, but I'm not doing it. But because of the lack of regulation, but I think going forward, we will have
will not do it, I'm sure.
No, that's why Mr. Arjun correctly said it's an infant stage.
Yeah,
it is. I mean, coming up. So we have to wait till regulation comes. And last question, Mr. Nityananda, who raised the hand, please. Last question, sir.
Thank you, sir. I am Dr. Nityananda, professor sir, and HOD St. Thomas College, sir. My simple question is, for share market, we say the regulatory body is SEBI, and for banks, RBI, and IRDA for insurance. Like this, for Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies, as of now in India, who is regulating and controlling, sir?
See, the first and foremost thing is you look at stock markets, for example, right? The BSE as a stock exchange has existed for like 100, 150 years, right? SEBI was formulated only in the last 30, 35 years, right? So normally a technology comes, there's a use that is happening, then the regulatory body is settled. So with respect to cryptocurrencies, there is a confusion. At one side, it looks like a security because people are trading on it. So SEBI should regulate it. On the other side, it's also a payment system. So should RBI regulate it? This is how last 4 or 5 years the arguments have gone. RBI wants SEBI to regulate it. SEBI wants RBI to regulate it. So the ball is in the court of the government to decide if SEBI should regulate this, RBI should regulate this, or there should be a new body that is formed, or the gift authority who should regulate cryptocurrency and cryptocurrency exchanges. Right. Okay. So even though it is not yet regulated by a certain body, the laws of Indian Constitution apply. So if someone scams you in cryptocurrencies, there is this penal law, right? You can still file a case. Doesn't mean, so if exchange tries to cheat you, if there's a rug pull that's happening, right? People collect money from you and run away. So in those cases, the existing law itself is sufficient. Specifically for crypto, there are no laws yet that are formulated, but we can expect that in next 6 months to 1 year.
Thank you, Mr. Arjun. Over to Mr. Navapan for vote of thanks.
Yeah. Good evening, friends. Thank you very much for attending in large numbers. You know, we had more than 100 attendees today for this webinar, because the topic being, you know, very much a current topic and very interesting topic. And before I, go into the formal vote of thanks, I thought that since large number of people are interested in knowing this, more details about this. In fact, Arjun mentioned about the Bitcoin white paper that is there available on the net. And apart from that, IIM Ahmedabad did a program consisting of 6 speakers. You know, it's a series of speeches, and they have consolidated it and published it as Findings and Perspectives Crypto in India. Findings and Perspectives Crypto in India. In the month of December 2021, they have published it. And in fact, one paragraph I'll just read out from it, very interesting. It says, the valuation of, this, how it happens. One, there are 4 different methods of looking at this. One, just brush it as, tulip mania, discard it. Over a period of time, the target price is 0. Because like tulip mania, if you know, those who know or those who don't know can go Google and find out a few centuries back it happened. So the second is monetary technology, where it will be used as, money. The third one is monetary good, where it, like gold, it can partly, considered as, this thing. And the fourth one is world reserve currency. When it is considered as monetary technology, the target price mentioned is $10,000 to $100,000. When it is considered as monetary good, which is like gold, then they say that $300,000 to $1 million. And when it becomes world reserve currency, which they say that it is possible at some point of time, the long-term price target could be $10 million. This is what they mentioned. Amazing numbers are there. It's available on the net. IIM's thing. You can look at it. Reserve Bank also talks a lot about the distributed ledger technology. If you read the RBI bulletin, which is available on the net in RBI's website, regularly they keep writing articles. The RBI governor keeps speaking about it. They never belittle this technology. In fact, they praise this technology, the distributed ledger technology or blockchain and all these things. And they say that it is inevitable and we should constitute, regulatory sandboxes is necessary, all these things. They keep talking about it and they've been appreciating. But where the problem comes is when it comes to cryptocurrency as a currency, the word currency. That is where, when it comes to that, what the RBI governor's comment is like this: the blockchain technology has been there for 10 years and can now grow without cryptocurrencies. When the central bank says we have serious concerns from the point of view of macroeconomic and financial stability, there are far deeper issues involved. And he says that, in fact, he criticizes the industry players for cursory discussions on the issues involving cryptocurrencies, and he calls for serious analysis. This is what is the stand of them. So, but as a market player, a typical trader or an investor in the market will normally look at more than, a long-term investor, a retail investor looks for transparency. Somebody who wants to take risk, somebody who looks at ventures into a new area, new avenue, he wants to enter it before it is fully regulated, because there is a lot of opaqueness, a lot of this thing is there. So today, if you look at it, the efficient market hypothesis will not apply to this market, like how commodities market was in 2001-2 probably, or stock markets or prior to CB. So that is the reason we have to be very careful. While this certainly provides an opportunity, most of the youngsters are attracted towards cryptocurrency and they do trade in cryptocurrency, whether it is in India or abroad. And it will continue to draw a larger audience towards it because of the scarcity or the price rise. It happens, the volatility is there. But one should be very careful because it is an unregulated one as of now. Until it is regulated, one has to be treated with a lot of carefulness and that's something which I wanted to say. I would like to thank Mr. Arjun Vijay for joining us and talking to us on all these issues. And it was really an interesting session. And glad that you didn't go into the technology. You very rightly pointed us to read the, look at the videos and other things, because if you start talking about the technology, it's very complicated and it may not be interesting also. My mother still keeps asking me about how a remote control, with a remote control, you are able to switch on the TV. I'm not able to explain to her, how she's very puzzled with that. How can there be a red light which travels from here and, switches on the TV? For us, it is very normal, very common. So, but we don't get into the technology part of it. So Thanks, Mr. Arjun. And I would like to thank HR Mohan, the chairman of the committee, for organizing the timely seminar or this webinar. And also would like to thank President Mr. C.A. K. Suresh and Ms. Chitra, the secretariat headed by Mr. Chitra of Hindustan Chamber of Commerce. And the audience, very interesting audience, whether it is Mr. Rajendran or other people, asked a lot of interesting questions, which makes it, more interesting and more learning process happens only when we discuss than a monologue. So I would like to thank the audience also. And I have a request to make, please follow us on a Twitter handle of Hindustan Chamber of Commerce and our Facebook page, because we keep doing quite a lot of program. In the beginning of this month, we did a program, a very interesting program on the real estate and the taxation related to real estate and the way forward. And last month, we did a flagship program of Sensex 2022, where we spoke of interest. We had eminent speakers addressing the audience on the capital market. We had a program on real estate last week, now on cryptocurrency. We have more such programs coming up, post-budget analysis and all. So track us on our Twitter handle in of the chamber and also the Facebook page. And with that, thank you once again. Thank you all.
Yeah, 1 minute. Mr. Arjun wants to say something. I think he raised his hand.
So when you mentioned the remote control, I remembered this. I read somewhere. So any technology that is there when you're in your teenage, that you take it for granted, you assume that it has existed forever. Like take electricity, for example, internet, for example. Anything that comes after 40 to 50 years, first thing is you meet it with skepticism, right? You look at electricity and you're saying it's going to kill a lot of people. You look at the ads in 1920s, when people saw cars for the first time, they said it's going to affect horse cars, right? We should ban cars, right? So that's how the world is. Like fiat currency in 1970s when the Nixon shock came, I'm sure a lot of people would have been like against it. Like we should have a gold standard back, right? How can government print currencies out of thin air? So every time this has changed, as paper currency came for the first time in 1770s in US, right? It faced skepticism. At some point of time, it becomes natural to us. We adapt it, right? We don't think twice before ordering food in our phone. I think at some point of time, technology changes our mind and we accept it like it's second nature.
Thank you, Arjun. Nice.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you, Chitra.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Very happy we had 100 people.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.